today's security good enough for tomorrow?
Clearly, no.
The aggregator is the blood flowing through our veins.
Perhaps the set-top box is dead, but to be replaced by streamers.
Legacy always lasts longer than you think it will.
Drive customer experiences and create new opportunities for carriers to engage with their customers.
Open and free does not mean easy.
The network is like a living organism.
If I give you $100 million, what would you do with it?
Hello, hello, hello. Good morning to our second session here today about power is nothing without control. We're going to talk about digital twins of subscribers and how that can really change your ARPU and your churn and many other things. My name is Andy Waltenspiel. Welcome here in this Connecting the Dots Super Track. I'm running a Munich, Germany-based consultancy working with some of the Tier 1 operators in Europe, such as Deutsche Telekom or Vodafone, and with some key vendors. Full disclosure, I worked with Nagra for 11 years, but that's already 5 years ago. Great, so let me call on stage Lou Borelli. He is the CEO of the NCTC, and Mathieu Fivas at Nagra. Big applause for the two gentlemen. Great to have you here. Before we start, let's do a quick round of introduction. Lou, a few words about yourself and the NCTC. I don't think anybody does not know the NCTC, but let's make sure.
Sure. So I'm Lou Borelli. I've been the CEO of NCTC, which is a National Content and Technology Cooperative, for about a year and a half. But I started in cable in 1978, was an owner-operator for the better part of 20 years, and then spent the next 20 in media and broadband. I think that where we are today is something that we might have, I think, dreamed about in '78. No one quite knew what the power of the network was. And I think that from a service and from a consumer standpoint, we're still learning a lot about our consumers and how they make decisions in terms of the services they use, services they buy. What we're going to talk about today, I think, is very interesting, and I never really thought I'd be on a technical panel like this talking about high science, but I'll do my best to keep up.
No, we're not going to go deep technical, Lou. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mathieu.
So I'm Mathieu Fivas. I started in this industry 24 years ago when the shift to digital was all the rage. And since then, I left and created a few startups in social media, in advertising, in leisure, and came back 5 years ago to the Kudelski Group, Nagra Vision, with the mission to see how we could use data and AI to help operators reduce churn and increase revenue. And we discovered on the path that digital twins are transforming many other industries, and we decided to bring the digital twins to operators by creating digital twins of each subscriber.
Thank you. And a little introduction video on the NCTC and Nagra, so 50-50 chance. I think it will be the one for the NCTC. Yes.
Knowing what the future looks like.
There's so much change in the industry.
Technology is expanding at a rapid pace. Competition is ever increasing.
Shifting from a content to a technology-based business.
As you watch the competitive threats that are coming,
I don't know how operators keep up with the pace of change, whether it's in the video space or the broadband space.
Oh, Lord.
More important than ever to be an NCTC member.
Because you have that energy among members.
The challenges that each of us face is the same.
And working with the co-op who can bring solutions to help you solve some of those challenges.
That's what NCTC has been able to do.
It's been core to our growth.
It's our NCTC.
The institution that we are together.
We're stronger together.
One of the challenges small members have is they don't have access to capital. So the fact that the federal and state governments are allocating so much money in broadband is going to be a boon.
What I want for our members is just their success, because I know fundamentally that they are building better networks.
Hell yeah!
What excites me about working with members is the ability to bring members together to realize their collective buying power.
To drive down the prices so you can do more with the money that you have.
We're doing everything we can to save money.
The resources that the NCTC affords is a huge benefit.
Because of the collective buying power.
Is really to be in the game.
Stronger.
Stronger.
We are stronger
Together.
We're here to provide essential services. The team at the NCTC is the best I've worked with.
NCTC has invested in new staff in order to meet the needs of our members.
You have this value of this incredible staff at the NCTC.
Our tools and our capabilities to serve you as the member.
Better than we ever were.
We're not your father's NCTC.
One word to describe the NCTC.
Community.
Community, community.
The community is great.
We are stronger together. There's not really probably a day that goes by that I don't hear from a member, I don't talk to somebody.
As the industry has changed and the technology has changed, one thing is certain, the people make a difference. We are stronger together.
Great video.
Thank you. That was a sizzle reel we put together. For those of you who are still trying to figure out who I am and why we're here, the NCTC is comprised of about 750 independent operators. They are primarily, my bad, sorry. Am I okay? Okay. Primarily in rural markets, although we have some very large members that are in major cities. But the bulk are what I would call the multi-generational, in some cases, businesses that I remember from 40 plus years ago, serving communities. Now, the interesting thing, as we get into this whole discussion about twins and such, is that most people, I think, assess the technology or the innovation with the larger companies. And what I'm happy to report is that our membership, even at the smaller and mid-sized levels, they're investing in fiber, they're investing in technology, they're revamping the way they do business. And they're introducing products and services that you can have in any of the big markets. So it's all good. And my job is basically to give them the opportunity to make good strategic decisions in directions where we can also help them either save money or make a bit more.
Yeah,
That's who we are.
700 small, medium, some big ones. Altogether, how many subscribers do you have?
So we represent, or we're connected in a third of all connected households in the U.S. Our broadband count is roughly 34 million, which puts us on par with Comcast and Charter. In terms of total digital connections, residential and business, broadband and video, we think we're at about 40 million.
Wow, that's impressive. So yes, multi-generational, some small, but you can see that like a fleet of speedboats rather than one big oil tanker. So maybe you can even outpace them.
Well, I think the key is that there is this evolutionary change going on. Most people call it revolutionary. It really takes longer than it should, or than you would expect. But the pandemic proved pretty much, without a doubt, that the rural and the smaller market systems actually held up well, considering that everyone was home, and obviously in a town of, say 7,000 or 8,000 people, where you might have 3,000 passings, the traffic wasn't exactly anticipated, right? But yet, it all stayed together. And I thought it was interesting. Full disclosure, I sit on the board of the Cable Center. Last year, for our Hall of Fame, the inductees for last year were actually all the frontline workers in the industry. We just decided, you know what? They actually kept us all connected, kept us together. Yep. And I'm proud of what we do. I'm proud of what our members do. They're vital to their communities. And they compete head-to-head with much larger titans. And look, they hold their own. We're doing fine.
Yeah. I think the only, as always, the only constant is change. And also the Kudelski group has changed quite significantly. So if you watch some old movies and you see the end crawl, you see audio of Nagra and won Oscars for audio, right? If I remember correctly. So, and you change from audio to security and now to some really cool stuff here. So let's play your video and then hear a bit from you. Great, thank you. So, this is a relatively new, in the grand history of Kudelski, a new division that you do. So tell us a bit about what are you trying to achieve, Mathieu?
Well, it all started 5 years ago when we saw that there is so much data available to operators. They know so many things about their subscribers. With many touch points and many technical systems bringing data. So we thought there must be a way for operator to improve revenue and reduce churn just by leveraging this data. And this is really the journey we started. And we got to that point where we provide digital twins that enable to simulate how people react and then use this simulation to make the best possible decision, the optimum decisions. And this is a revolution in other industry that we're very excited to bring to the world of telcos and cable operators.
So we hear digital twins, and some of my customers in Europe are experimenting with it or even deploying it, but more on the infrastructure side. So I want a digital twin of my access network, so I can simulate stuff. If I change the software upgrade of the Cisco routers, what does it do? Or of their mobile network. But looking at the Gartner hype cycle, we talked about this yesterday, digital twins of customers, of people, is something relatively new, and you're at the forefront of what's happening.
Yeah, the digital twin really started in industry. You had this idea of, oh, I'm going to have a digital version of my plants. And then I have sensors, and then the digital twin, I can do simulation and act on the real plant. And what really happens now is that this has been moving from just simulating physical objects to simulating people, meaning the digital twin models the behavior of people, and then you can simulate what happens depending on what you do to here in this industry to subscribers. So really the idea is you create a digital twin of every subscriber, and you use machine learning and AI to make sure that the digital twin reacts just like the real subscriber. And the cool thing with this is then you can do simulation. You can say, oh, what happens if I do this or that to this subscriber? What happens if I give him this package or upgrade his internet bandwidth or put this price? And then you look at what is the best of everything you can do to that subscriber, what is the best outcome for you, and you do that. Or you can take the whole subscriber base and simulate the impact of a given strategy on the whole base and say, oh, if I do this or that, this is the impact on my revenue and churn in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years. And you get different answers for all of that.
Okay, so now we have the weapon. Let's take one step back, and Lou, maybe you tell us what are, we talked about the industry is changing, there's transformation. What are the current challenges? And we talked about ARPU and churn. What are the challenges you see for the NCTC and maybe more global for the whole industry?
Wow. And here I am thinking, how am I going to make a digital twin of Steve Beardsley down there so I'll know what he'll do every time I ask him a question? Look, I think our challenge as a co-op is to collectively address the issues that affect our business, both on a day-to-day or normal routine basis as well as strategically. Having the power to aggregate our networks and do the things we're doing in transit and transport and with our connectivity exchange is huge. And we've talked about this. We probably have an MVNO solution to announce in the next, hopefully 45 days or so. So from the co-op standpoint, we're providing the tools and the support and the services for our members to be successful. How they deploy them and what, how much of our support they use is really up to them. But from an industry standpoint, we're not just the cable guy anymore, right? If you're looking at the traditional operator. And it's more about network performance and reliability. Obviously, in technology, whether it's in mobile or if it's in broadband or satellite, price is important. And although I usually like to stand by my rule that nobody wins a price war, the clear message right now is that there isn't a significant advantage in any sector for brand loyalty. So it's more about price, convenience, and service. And I think that what we're talking about here is a step in the right direction to kind of develop the relationships or redevelop the relationships with customers so that brand loyalty is measured. I mean, I know everybody measures it, but then when it comes right down to it, if you give people choices and you give them a wide price variance, generally it's driven more by price than brand.
Yeah. Mathieu, your customers, some of the big operators on the planet are our customers, Vodafone, Telefonica, Altice, and a few others. So what are the challenges that made them talk to you about digital twins? How did it start?
Yeah, so all these operators, and I think everyone in this room, there's a way to look at the business where we have subscribers, right? And we are packaging many different services for subscription price, so a monthly price for them, right? And what we need to do is understand what package to sell them, at what price, and manage revenue, manage margin, and manage churn. And once you do that correctly, then you have a good business, right? So there are lots of decision, day-to-day and strategic decision about how you do that. So if you add mobile to a package, why do you do it? Do you do it for revenue? Do you do it for margin? Do you do it to reduce churn? Or if you have old subscriber with low bandwidth, do you leave them there and they can be taken by competition? Or do you proactively upgrade their bandwidth for free to make sure you keep them, but you forego future revenue? Or now you have inflation. So what do? Do you adjust the price? If you adjust the price, then you're going to take a hit in terms of churn. And sometimes if you adjust it too much, people call, they want to churn, you give them retention discount. So the increase is gone. So all these decisions are they are day-to-day, but they are key. And what we've seen is that with the evolution of AI and data, you can make this decision based on numbers and based on simulations. And that's what is really interesting, and that's what has been interesting for the customers we've talked digital twin about. And they've seen really big impact on their business, starting with just the bottom line, where there's hundreds of millions of bottom line impact, to the point where that can influence refinancing conditions or this kind of thing. So yeah, that's the key thing.
I mean, in the past, this decision, okay, I want this package, and that is the right price, it's a bit gut feeling. It's a lot of expertise and veterans like Lou. I mean, you've gone through all of that on multiple different fronts, mobile, connectivity, and video, and maybe more. So, but I think it's not about taking AI and replace the experts. Otherwise it's garbage in, garbage out. So it's more like a tool you give to the people with expertise and the smell, then you validate it with data. Is that how I have to understand it?
Yeah, it's a new tool for the people who know, right? It's not a replacement. First you always have to have the system being in control by someone who understands, who creates a strategy that you want to test and simulate, right? And then also, when you create the digital twin, you need to put all the knowledge that the experts have about the market, because a digital twin driven by knowledge of the industry is always going to be better performing than one that is just doing stuff, right? So So it's really a tool at the hands of the expert and not replacing the experts.
I have a question.
Please.
Because this is where I'm trying to, everything that you're talking about, we did back in the analog cave days, but it was different. It was on zip codes. It was on demographic profiles. But then when we got a bit more sophisticated, we would actually do tests. So we would take a section of our system and we would try discreetly to do one thing or the other. So my question is, how do you validate, and I'm not questioning what you're doing, it's just, to me, it's fascinating. To be able to simulate something is really cool. How do you validate it? In other words, are there tests going on that with real people that validate what the machine says they would do? I'm curious as to how you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. You always want to have that. So every time we launch digital twins, we have a target group that gets the optimum actions, and then you have a control group that gets the business as usual, and then you really look at the difference between the two. And that gives you two things. It gives you, first, the confidence that you're doing things right, and that's key, right? You never want to have a machine doing things on its own. And second, it also enables the digital twin to self-improve, because as soon as you have the results from different actions, you can recalibrate the models and get the next generation of the digital twin.
Lou, how is the cooperative doing these kind of actions today? Is it each one of the 700 runs their own campaigns and their own CRM, or is there something that you support them on this front today as well?
So to understand what we are, we're sort of a B2B relationship with our members. So we don't create consumer campaigns or have anything to do with their pricing or their operations. We're more of a resource to support them. So they're independent businesses. I would guess, and I'm just guessing, some of our larger members do have some type of interfaces, the standard interfaces with their billing platform, so that they can look at their customers in different economic or psychographic type of profiles. I'm obviously not aware if anybody in the U.S. is testing this twins concept. To me...
Because it's so secret,
right,
so far.
It used to be, now it's not. But the key to me will be, and we've had this discussion in our pre-meeting, is there's this product that sounds like it's everything and then some, which frankly companies as big as Vodafone or Comcast or Charter would be able to do pretty more easily than others. But my question is, from a scalability standpoint, is there a way to utilize what you've learned and apply it in these smaller, even if it's on a regional basis, maybe not on a company basis? Because I do think that it does provide the ability to be more dynamic, more agile, and more innovative, because you're able to simulate and you don't have to go through the one thing we didn't talk about is these tests take time, right? So you have to let it, you have to go through. So what you could do, with a display and a joystick in like 20 minutes, it would take the marketing team at a local system, 3 to 6 weeks to execute the campaign, collect the results, analyze the data. So, 20 minutes for 6 weeks, I'd make that trade.
So so the question, one of the questions I hear asking is, how long does it take to tweak the machine learning AI so it gives good result? And you're doing this with some customers already. So how long did it take them?
Well, there is always two phases. There's the initial phase, right? And there the key is to understand what is the business case we're going to optimize, and then you connect the data. And once you connect so you have your digital twin platform that runs separately, then you connect the data to all the sources. Often there is already a data lake or interfaces. And once the digital twin has the data, it can start learning. Right? And sometimes when you start, there is already tons of things that have been tried and that are lying in historical data. And then digital twin immediately learns. Sometimes you need to try things that have never been tried, so you try it. So you send a few actions to people, and then from the result, the digital twin learns this new type of behavior, and then you can generalize.
You said...
Wait, hold on.
Go.
I'm on it. So this is very interesting. You could, it sounds like you might be, continually testing to not necessarily to get the net business result, but to accelerate the learning of the twin. Oh, that's nasty. Wow.
Yeah, actually, you always do that, right? You always have a part of the thing that is there to exploit and get the benefits, and you always keep a part to explore and do new things that makes you learn faster, and then you can extend, right?
That's pretty cool.
So, as always, and that was part of your question before, is if I'm a Vodafone, I have 20 million subscribers. In my CRM, you have 700 CRMs that in total make up 34 or 40 plus million. Now, how key is the size of the data you have access to, Mathieu?
Well, the data has to be large enough to represent the behavior of people. So, I mean, typically in such a case, you would like to aggregate data from many operators. And the investment that you have to do upfront is that you have to connect the data. That's the key investment. And of course, at Vodafone, there's so many subscribers behind it that they can finance a big effort. But as time, so typically these new technology, they come and the first projects are done by the McKinsey of that world, financed by big operators. And that's the first step. And it's very expensive, takes a lot of time because they are discovering. And the second step is often that there are technology providers like us that come with a platform that's vertical. And it already includes the intelligence of a specific domain. Here, the word of subscription and operators. And once you have that, then everything goes down in time, right? You just need to connect the data, and then you have your twin. So here, the idea would be to connect the data of multiple operators through a single interface, and then you would run the machine learning and the training of the twins over the whole thing. And that could really work.
I would be scared in Lou's shoes now. You said lots of costs at the beginning, but this was the McKinsey bill. Yeah. So now, it's not breaking the bank, I hope. We're not talking about tens of millions to set it up.
No, once you have a digital twin system, you're speaking about a few months to, typically we go in an operator, in 2 weeks, we assess where the biggest pocket of value is and what's the fastest time to return on churn and revenue. And then within a few months, we've connected the data and launched the system, and you already see results.
So, results. Let's talk results. You cannot name the customers, I understand that. So, what are some of the key results? You mentioned hundreds of millions of bottom line across what time frame?
So, typically, it takes a bit of time to come because what you realize when you start doing digital twin simulation is that there is magic between optimizing recurrent revenue. Because if you optimize recurrent revenue now, the benefit of it trickles down in time, right? Every month, you still have the benefit of that, minus a little bit of churn. Then you do that for a second month, and it trickles down in time. And you do it for a third month, it trickles down in time. So the impact grows very, very fast. So typically, over 3 years, we get hundreds of millions on a good-sized operator. We get hundreds of millions of bottom-line impact. So it's very significant, and because it's bottom line, then it has a lot of other financial impact because small changes in bottom line make big changes in key metrics.
Lou, you're buying it?
Well, I'm sitting here trying to figure out from the co-op standpoint if there was an opportunity to aggregate data from multiple members in order to create a large enough pool to have some simulation. I think the key, well, the issues are simple. You know, customer data, customer actions, everyone's very weird about sharing that stuff, so we'd have to kind of figure out how this would flow. But, you know, we operate in all 50 states and U.S. territories, and the range of service is not that wide. I'm just thinking out loud about if there was a way to build a representative sample, maybe do it by region because that's more homogeneous. I don't know. But, you know, he hasn't told us how much it costs, so I'm assuming it's a lot. And for us, you know, where I see this as a potential value from the co-op standpoint is that we organize and aggregate a volume of work that the co-op can benefit from, and we do it as cost effectively.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, in, you know, not telling any secrets here, you know, some of our members count their current video customers in the hundreds, but they have you know, several thousand broadband customers. And so part of what we're talking about here is as the business is evolving and as video becomes a different product, it doesn't go away, you just have a different version of it. And you're trying to compete on incremental technology in the home, smart homes, different devices, you know, a more sustainable, you know, broad bandwidth, high-speed network. These kinds of simulations can be very helpful.
Yep.
I mean, from, you know, literally, we made it up as we were going along in the 70s and 80s with testing and consumer behavior and research, of which we still do. And it's, you know, this would, I mean, again, assuming that the cost effectiveness can be proven over a reasonable sized grouping, it can be game changing, I think.
Okay, so I'll let you take that discussion offline. But do I, as an operator, do I need to become the expert? Do I need to get trained on all that stuff? Or who's managing the complexity? Do I need an army of data scientists? Does it replace our experts and veterans?
No, you don't need an army of data scientists. You need an army of data scientists if you want to redo the whole thing, right? A la McKinsey or internally. But if you use a system that already includes that, then it comes with the data science and the data scientists that will monitor the system. So it's typically a SaaS system, and there are some data scientists always there. So really the idea is you want to bring back, you don't want to do data science, you want to do business. So you want to bring back the simulations and the result of the simulations and the decision to things that are very simple. Often it's, what is the impact on churn? What is the impact on revenue? And sometimes, you know, you're happy to forego some revenue to keep more subscriber because it's an asset for the future, or it's the end of the year and, you know, analysts are gonna, you know, value the company.
Careful,
yeah.
careful.
Okay, we've seen that some of our customers are ready to forego a surprising amount of revenue just to keep subscriber. Maybe that works better for you.
No.
But it's true. It's very true.
No, it was the part about manipulating the end of year number. That's what I was concerned about.
and then so all these things, they are, I mean, sometimes you want to maximize revenue and forego churn. Sometimes it's the opposite. And it's often a balance, right? I mean, if you, let's say you have inflation, you increase price too little, you lose revenue, no churn. You increase more revenue overall, less churn, right? Still very good on revenue. If you increase too much, you have too much churn and it goes away. So often it's decisions that you have to make. This is the strategic part, right? So the tool brings you, okay, here are strategies that are all optimum. Which one do you want? And then you say, I want that one. You push a button, and brrrp, the system implements the strategic decisions, right?
So if I summarize up to here, it's a SaaS platform. It runs in the cloud. So is it a pay-as-you-grow model, potentially?
So it's typically a model where you pay per subscriber, right? So once you do the initial investment of connecting the data, the ROI is independent of the number of subscribers, right?
Okay, so it's positive.
So it's positive, and it's a very positive ROI, right? We
Okay,
see
so you
very
could
positive ROI with, the first use cases.
So you would manage the complexity. You need to connect to all various systems that an operator or a cooperative would have. You run simulations that you test versus control groups, and you say you get 100 millions of bottom line, which is what you want, out of it over a couple of years. Sounds great. I'm sure the devil is in the detail. But I want to open the floor also for questions from the audience. I'm sure there are some. So please walk up here. We have a microphone. Let us know your name and your company, and just shoot your question. It's on, should be. Just talk. It should work. No?
Cool. Hey, my name's Tim. I'm from Calera. Awesome. When I watched that video that you played, some things went through my head, like
which of the three?
That small snippet with a sailboat. So some things went through my head. Basically, you're using customer data to increase a business model. There goes the privacy. Like, if I could get a 15-second video snippet, because I know you like sailing, I know you like soccer, and I know you like, cupcakes, and I put that in a video to say, here's our new broadband offering to increase revenue. Where is compliance with privacy? I'm so like TikTok, I love it, right? But it's like, at some point, somebody's going to say, hey, man, you're using customer data to improve a business model. Where are those police in your world, or are they not?
Okay, so privacy is key. We come from Europe. We are very GDPR compliant, and so we take that very seriously. The key to see here is that it's not about taking private data and selling it to outside companies to do advertising or whatever, right? It's about using my own data for myself. It's like a billing system or a CRM. A billing system cannot bill without knowing data about the subscriber. A CRM cannot operate without knowing what has happened to that subscriber. So we are not in the category of things, of private data that go out. We're in the category of private data that I, as an operator, am using for myself. So already there, you're in a completely different category, right? But then, of course, you go in the direction of these ever-increasing privacy protections. So you want to make sure that there is some level of consent that is gotten from the user to process data. You want to make sure that the user has the right to delete its data if it wants, and stuff like that.
Does it answer your question? Great. Thank you.
Yeah, you keep it in-house. This is purely using my data for myself as an operator.
More questions? Anyone? Hello.
My name is Melanie. I'm with 5 Broadband. Question, I'm assuming this is for residential use, right? Has this been tested or trialed with commercial or SMB type practices or use?
Yeah, that's a very good question. For now, we've really focused on consumers. The same approach can work for businesses. You just need to make sure you have the right level of data to qualify the businesses, but the approach would work in a very, very similar way. It's just that the size of the two businesses are such that we decided to work first on that one, and that one is for soon.
Because in the end, you will have millions of residential customers, but maybe just hundreds or thousands of B2B customers, so that's the data set might be too small?
No, I think the data set is large enough. I think it's more a question of there's so many things to do, and there's much more revenue on the consumer side. So if you optimize a big bucket of money, I wouldn't say rather than a small, but a less big bucket of money, you get more impact.
When you go to B2B in 5G, where it seems to be the money is more in the B2B cases, maybe that changes there.
Yeah, maybe that changes, and we'll be very enthusiastic about working on that.
I have another question.
Go. You can use this microphone.
What's your definition of success? In other words, I get that you have, the quality learning and all of that, but in terms of, and I'm getting back to the whole, how do we validate whether this is valid or how valid is it? I mean, do you have a target of, against a control group? Is it 95% effective? Is it 90%? Is it 99%? I'm trying to figure out how we should view this as if you have a whole set of tools in your toolkit, how do you measure the effectiveness of this and the related costs versus other things that may not be as exciting?
So there's really two measures of success. There's a quantitative one and a qualitative one. The quantitative one is that the model will predict revenue and churn 4 months later, right? So you follow revenue and churn for the target group, you follow revenue and churn for the control group, and you want to see them evolving as predicted. Right. And if it's not as predicted, you want the difference between the two to be as predicted, right? Okay. That's the measure of success. That's the quantitative one, and that translates into things you can compute on how much churn and revenue you've gained, and that's key. And the other one is more qualitative. There are tons of decisions that are so hard to make when you just do like this, right? So one example is inflation. How much do you increase? Do you increase everyone by the same amount? Or maybe not, right? Because not everyone has the same sensitivity to price, right? So we've seen customers that start by saying, oh, we're going to increase by so much. And then they do simulation and they see they can go much further. So they make a completely different strategic decision. Or maybe another case that's very common is, do I upgrade this old customer bandwidth that's too low and it's going to be gone to competition, but then I forgo the revenue? This is another case where you do these simulations and you take a different path. So this is qualitative. This is part of digital transformation. And it's not as directly quantitative, but it's very important. So another measure of success is, do the customer think they cannot no longer do without that, right?
Got it. Okay.
I think it's a super interesting topic. We could probably continue for another hour. Unfortunately, we have run out of time.
Wow.
Lou, thank you very much. And Mathieu for being here with us. Big applause for the two gentlemen.
Thank you.
And thank you, dear audience, for being here. By the way, if you're interested in another topic with the NCTC this afternoon, we have a panel where not Lou is coming, but some from your team, and we're going to talk about whether video is still relevant for smaller and mid-sized operators. I'm sure that will be also an interesting one. Cool. Thank you very much for being here. Awesome. Have a great day.